this ongoing nasty dispute, of course, that we've been following closely, both Jim and I, for years now, over the patents, of course, and the fact that Apple not paying Qualcomm for what it says is its intellectual property. This dispute around the world, and this morning we get a ruling out of a court in Fuzhou province in China, the Fuzhou Intermediate People's Court in China, that has granted Qualcomm's request for 2 preliminary injunctions against 4 Chinese subsidiaries of Apple. And the order here is to immediately cease infringing upon 2 Qualcomm patents through the unlicensed importation, sale, and offers for sale of the 6, 6S, 6S, 6S Plus, 7, 7 Plus, 8, 8 Plus, and X. So seemingly it would appear preventing more or less all iPhones from being sold in China. Now, very quickly, let me move forward to the fact that this already appears to be in dispute. And that people close to Apple are telling me that, in fact, they do not view this preliminary injunction in that fashion. They believe it only applies to those phones loaded with iOS 11, which is an operating system that the company's no longer shipping with its new iPhones. iOS 12 is where we are right now. And therefore, and this is a statement from Apple that we have for you, they say Qualcomm's efforts to ban our products is another desperate move by a company whose illegal practices are under investigation by regulators around the world. All iPhone models remain available for our customers in China. Qualcomm is asserting 3 patents they have never raised before, including one which has already been invalidated. We will pursue all our legal options through the courts. Now, Qualcomm did file 22 cases in 6 provinces. They did, in fact, rule on this. The court, this takes quite some time, apparently, in China, and they did make this ruling, so both parties were aware it was coming as early last week, it appears. But again, Jim, you and I and Carl were left sort of trying to understand the ramifications of this nasty, ongoing dispute that is scheduled to go to trial early next year, fairly early next year, between these 2 giant companies that, of course, has resulted in Apple suppliers not paying Qualcomm for what it says it's owed on its patents and its intellectual property. If, in fact, Qualcomm is correct here, you're talking about a company that sold $11.4 billion worth of largely iPhones, but $11.4 billion worth of products in China last quarter. A very important market for Apple, which again says all its iPhone models remain available. Qualcomm saying, no, you've just been enjoined from selling virtually all your models in China.
Well, I mean, look, Apple's just been in a world of pain. The stock's been in a world of pain. It sells it around 12 times earnings. Now, sometimes you'd say, okay, well, listen, maybe the market knows something. I don't think it knew this. My issue, obviously, is that we don't know how that court system works. And for all I know, a preliminary injunction could be solved, and it's not the end of the world for Apple, but this is a surprise. Qualcomm, the bitterness between these 2 companies is actually, I haven't seen it, David, in a lot of companies. And there is, if you take action on this, and Apple comes out later on with a statement, which is basically going to say, we're selling them, then I think you're going to regret it. At the same time, obviously, Qualcomm has a stronger hand than I know I thought.
One would think that, again, I want to get to the heart of the matter here. Qualcomm says its belief is the court has now enjoined virtually the sale of all Apple iPhones in China. Apple says no, they view this as only applying to those with iOS 11, and iOS 12 is the current operating system. That's not included.
Yeah, but
here we are again.
But Apple's saying all iPhone models remain available for our customers. I mean, they're either selling them or they're not, right?
Well, if they're selling them with 12, because they're all loaded with the new operating system.
Well, that's all.
They're saying it doesn't apply.
Well, I mean, look, if we were in China,
now, by the way,
if we lived in China, we would know the answer, right?
Qualcomm says that's not the case, and that's not their understanding of it, that there are 2 functions that are in iOS 12 that do apply under the patents that are at the heart of the dispute here, at least in this particular court that's ruling now. But Jim, I guess the bigger picture becomes, does this get these 2 companies any closer to settlement? We've heard different things from different sides in terms of the state of any potential talks. Steve Mollenkopf was on your show not long ago,
saying they're
sort of alluding to the potential to talks.
Yeah.
Apple has come back in court a few times and said there really are no significant talks of any kind.
Well, the larger question, too, is whether or not the courts are using this battle to create collateral damage in a trade war on a day where the Huawei CFO is going to have a bail hearing.
I think Carl's right that the notion, I think people have to understand that I always come back to this when it comes to China. The courts are controlled by the Communist Party. Now, that's not some vast conspiracy. If you look at the Venn diagram of the communists, they control the courts. So this cannot be idle. It's not like the party didn't check off on this. So that does matter. It's punitive. But I also know that I just kind of want to peel back of what we're doing as reporters, so to speak. We're kind of hung because we've got the largest company, well, second largest company in the world telling us that their phones are for sale. And we've got the most important innards of a semiconductor company saying they're not for sale.
Right. And as it relates to a potential settlement, most recent comments we really had on the record, at least from Apple, were in court. Actually, I think it was last week, where its lawyer, William Isaacson, told Judge Curiel there have been, unfortunately, a lot of articles lately saying the parties are close to a settlement. That is not true. The parties are at loggerheads, he said, in fact. And we are not engaged in settlement discussions, haven't been in many months. We're ready for trial. That was Apple lawyer Juanita Brooks telling Curiel later in a hearing that took place in his San Diego courtroom. So that's how at least you're hearing about the settlement. They don't agree on anything,
right.
these two companies.
I don't want to let viewers down. I mean,
listen,
this
we're
is
trying
on the fly, man. We are like checks. I'm like,
we're trying to
I typically don't
advocate
do
news
this.
that has come out that certainly on the face of it would scare any Apple shareholder.